Well, and that, good morning, everyone. We're now webcasting, so we'll call the meeting to order, and I hope that everyone in the audience had a great Thanksgiving. And we started it at 9:10. Thank you. And the first resolution is moved by Member Bottomsworth, second by Member Green. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment agenda dated October 13, 2020 be adopted. All those in favor? That's carried. And is there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none. The next resolution is moved by Member Creaser, second by Member Quinn. Be it resolved that the minutes dated September 14th, 2020 be adopted and approved as circulated. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Andrea, would you like to read the rules, please?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Can you hear me okay? I'll just go through a few statements and read the procedures for the hearing. The electronic meeting is being held in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Planning Act. Excuse me, the Municipal Act due to COVID-19 pandemic. And members present, Member Edwards, Member Bosworth, Member Quinn, Member Creaser, and Member Grogan Green. And we do have a quorum. Staff present is David Pink, Director of Development Services and Environmental Sustainability, Lori Forbes, Planning Assistant, Bryce Sharps, Planner 2, Caitlin Walker, Planner 1, Jane Sieber as Planning Services Technician, and joining us today is Wesley Crown from MHBC, and he's a planner. I'll just go into the regular procedures now. Oh, no, sorry, I just have a few more statements to make. The motions have been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting. Members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed the vote. If the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded. This is not considered a recorded vote. And public has been input on October 13th agenda was invited at the following email address, planning@muskokalakes.ca. And now I'll just go into the procedures. The planner will provide an explanation and purpose of the application, the date notice was circulated, and will present any submissions received. The planner will also provide planning staff's comments. Committee will then hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent if they wish to add any information. Please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. Committee will hear from those in support of the application and those in opposition to the application. Again, please provide your name, mailing address for our records. Committee will then hear the applicant or the applicant's agent respond to any questions or concerns raised. Committee will then have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or staff. Committee will debate the application and make a decision based on the information presented at the hearing. It must be noted the chair has a vote on each application and can participate in the discussion. There's a 20-day appeal period from the date of the decision. In the case of a minor variance application, a building permit is not available until after the appeal period and no appeals are received. When you present at the hearing, please provide us your name, mailing address. Any presentation is limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise permitted by the committee. Please note the resolutions are automatically written in the positive to assist in completing decisions in a timely fashion as opposed to writing out each resolution. This does not in any way mean an application is going to be approved. And one last thing, please take down the pink sign that was posted advertising this meeting. Thank you.
And our first application is B 111220 ML. And we'll have the description, please, by the planner.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Hopefully you can all hear me fine. It's a pleasure to be assisting Township of Muskoka Lakes through this application and the various applications we'll be doing today. The first applications, as the Chair noted, are B11, 12, and 13. They're interrelated provisional consent severance applications for the property at 1046 Craigie Lee Road, Units 10 and 11. And the names of the applicants are Sevazlian and G to the fourth. If I can refer the committee to the application sketch, that's there's a link in the agenda that's been provided to you. The applications are for provisional consent to grant a right-of-way for a new laneway on the subject properties, B11 and 12. The applicants Sevazlians would grant a right-of-way over the proposed laneway on their property in favor of the lands owned by G to the fourth and John Brave. Application B13, G to the fourth, who is the owner, proposes to grant a right-of-way over their property in favor of John Brave. The existing right-of-way will be extinguished subject to the approval of this application. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, notice was circulated on September 23rd of this year, and the 14-day notice period requirement of the Planning Act has been satisfied. In response to that application, there are 3 comments that have been received by the municipality. You also have a detailed staff report, and a link is provided in your agenda. The comments with respect to this application are as follows. We have a letter dated October 7th from the District Municipality of Muskoka advising that they are not opposed to the application, provided appropriate development controls are used to conserve the valuable conifer thermal cover, the deer feeding areas, and movement corridors. We also have an email dated September 25th from the Building Department who advised they have no objections. And we also have comments dated October 7th from Public Works, who also advised that they have no objections as well. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, you have the detailed staff report in front of you. Generally, there are no concerns based on our review and analysis of the application in general conformity with the various provincial, district, and municipal plans and bylaws. If the committee is willing and wishes to consider the approval of this application, staff are recommending a number of standard conditions for your consideration. Those are outlined on the first page of the staff report. Mr. Chair, that's my Reader's Digest condensed version presentation, but willing to answer any questions that the committee or public have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crown. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? Agent's here, okay. We'll hear from the agent.
Sorry, it's okay. He's coming in. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee and staff. My name is Stefan Shervack with Planscape Inc., 104 Kimberley Avenue in Bracebridge. Mr. Chair, I've read the report from Mr. Crown. I fully support his policy analysis, fully agree with his presentation to the committee, and we fully support the recommendation that's in front of committee today. Just as a quick background, all the lots have existing legal access as described by Mr. Crown. The new revised driveway and rights of way provide essentially privacy, additional privacy to all the lots in question. If any members have questions, I'm here to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And that member Green?
Yes, I believe that this came up to Committee of Adjustment, this property before. There's been a significant amount of blasting on this property like I've never seen before. A lot of clearing of trees. And I don't understand why the planners decided that the old road does not have to be revegetated, because It's going to leave a significant amount of bare land, which is another reason sometimes that people use to put accessory structures or, play surfaces down, or, spontaneous things like croquet. And the district itself has recommended that we be careful that there be good conifer cover and animal corridors protected. So it's my opinion that this whole old road should be revegetated.
I guess I'll ask that, Mr. Sherbach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. An excellent question. Thank you very much. I am happy to advise the committee that the owners actually have a private agreement amongst themselves with a very extensive revegetation plan for this property. So understand and fully respect staff's decision, but the owners of the two properties have agreed, and there is a plan that's in place right now.
Okay, and that member Green, does that satisfy your question?
I guess the thing is, we haven't seen it. I think that these sorts of things, if that is the case, maybe it should be presented to our committee. Because, although this road is further back, it leaves an area closer to the lake that is not, that from what my perspective, planted properly. And, I think that a site that's cleared that significantly should be sort of quote unquote made good. And I don't know whether I'm fully assured, but I leave it to the rest of the committee to exercise their own judgment on this.
Thank you very much. And that committee members, any thoughts on this? Yes, Mrs. Boslenberg.
I didn't hear a clear reason why the driveway has to be moved.
And that, Mr. Sherbach, would you like to answer that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, there was an agreement between the three neighbors to move the driveway to afford privacy, essentially, between all three of the lots. The area in question travels through a hydro corridor, and again, it just essentially provides additional privacy to all of the lots in question, being, on the plan itself, part 1, part 2, and continues to provide access to the other properties. So it basically is an agreement between all three of the neighbors, and again, for privacy reasons.
Yes, Member Green.
It's my understanding that this property has also changed hands. And I also believe that this road has already been built. I mean, I wonder why we're asked to approve something that's already taken place.
Just to make it not legalized for future owners, I would say. Anyone else have any thoughts on that? Would you like it revegetated, is what I asked. And that, just 1 second, and that, Mr. Crown.
Mr. Chairman, through to Member Grogan Green, we've heard from the applicant that there's an agreement with respect to the renaturalization of the existing driveway. If the committee is uncomfortable that that's sufficient to deliver, I think, the committee's concerns, then an additional condition with respect to an appropriate development agreement or site plan agreement to formalize those requirements and to require, for example, the posting of securities is something that the committee could consider. That way the committee is satisfied then that both your concerns and the district's recommendations with respect to renaturalization are actually a fundamental part of any approval that you grant.
Okay, thank you very much. And I've seen 2 hands up, and that Member Bosworth.
Just from the diagram, I can't quite see where the original right-of-way is. And is it the one that curves sort of down and then comes back? Labeled part 3, 35R-5077. Is that the,
Yes.
is the original
Would
one? So
somebody
we're
like to answer
actually
that?
we're shortening the right of way then?
Is that Mr. Sherback?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that's correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And Member Green? Member Green, you had your hand up in that before?
Don't think I did, Alan.
Okay, yes, and that? Yes, Mr. Bosman.
Is it true that the trees have already been cut down and the right of way been cut through?
Mr. Sherback?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, yes, the laneway is in.
Yes.
And to Wesley Crown, are landowners allowed to do this kind of work without getting approval ahead of time?
And that Mr. Pink can answer that.
Thank you.
Morning, committee. Thank you, Mr. Crown. I just thought it best if we address this. Please be aware that the permission to put in a driveway is not before the committee. The property owner has a permission to put in a driveway to access their lands. What's before committee is to permit a right of way over it so that other property owners can legally in the future cross that property to access their own properties. That's what's before committee. As Mr. Crown has noted, as per the request of some members, if the committee wish to formalize a revegetation plan, we can add that as a condition of approval. As we've heard from the applicant's agent, they have an informal agreement. However, we can certainly add that as a condition to be formalized through an agreement with the municipality as well, if you wish.
Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
I would support a condition with securities for replanting the previous right of way.
And the other members agree? If you do, just nod. Okay. You want to add that, David, please?
We really need to get addresses.
Oh,
I'm not even sure if you asked if anyone
pardon?
else was in opposition or support.
Yeah, was there anyone else in opposition or support of this application? And Mr. Sherback, we need your name and address and postal code for our records.
Sorry, thank you. Planscape Inc., 104 Kimberly Avenue, Bracebridge. The postal code I don't have in front of me. Sorry.
Thanks.
Okay, I guess we can forgive your postal code this time. And moved by Member Creaser, second by Member Bosworth. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application 11/12/20, provided the following conditions are fulfilled. One, a registrable description deed of the severed lot right away be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. Two, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the retained lot is satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, that any problems identified with the existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. 3, that a portion of the existing right-of-way be removed from the tile of the affected property, so the title of the affected property, and 4, the site plan agreement be entered into and registered on the registry to the existing right-of-way to revegetate the existing right-of-way. And all those in favor? Thank you. That is carried.
Broke up into 2 resolutions.
Yeah.
So I need to write it again.
And just 1 second, and we'll do number 13, but we have to get that condition added. Thank you. And moved by member Green, second by member Quinn, be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 1320 ML G to the 4th investment, provided the following condition is fulfilled. 1, a registered description deed of the severed lot right of way be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied with retained lot, is satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, that any problems identified with the existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. 3, that a portion of the existing right-of-way be removed from the title of the affected property. And 4, that a site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title to revegetate the existing right-of-way. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. And the next application is B 1420 ML, right? And I believe that's Mr. Crown again.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. This is item 8B on your agenda. As the chair indicated, this application B1420 regarding 1289 Peninsula Road, Unit 7, in the name of Wright. I can direct the committee's attention to the application sketch and the link that's provided in the agenda. Application B14 is a provisional consent. It's a technical application to merge 2 separate parcels into 1 parcel. Merging will permit the owners to redevelop their property in full compliance with the municipality's zoning bylaw. The application is required as a result of a previous severance that occurred with respect to one of the parcels, and in Ontario under the Planning Act, once a severance, always a severance. And as such, the 2 properties could not be merged without this application. The notice was provided on September 23rd, and therefore the notice requirements of the Planning Act have been satisfied. With respect to this application, we've received 4 comments. On October 6th, we received comments from the District Municipality of Muskoka, who advised they have no objections. Comments received on September 25th from the Building Department with no objections. We also have comments from the Public Works Department with no objections, but notes that there may be civic addressing changes that are required as a result of the application. We also have an email dated October 9th from Terry and Wayne Snyder, who are adjacent property owners, advising that they have no objections with respect to the application. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, you also have the detailed staff report dated October 8th, Based on our review analysis of the relevant plans and policies, we have no concerns or objections with respect to the application. If the committee is considering approving it, we're recommending one condition for your consideration. Mr. Chairman, that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crown. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
Agent is here and owner, so I'll go through the agent.
Yeah, the agent first, then that's fine. We'll hear from the agent first.
Sorry, I was muted. Heather Wilson Consulting Services, 1014 Manitoba Street, Bracebridge, P1L 1W9. Good morning. Can you hear me? I can't be heard.
We can hear you.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. I thought I was muted. Heather Wilson Consulting Services, 1014 Manitoba Street, Bracebridge, P1L 1W9. I'm here representing Mr. and Mrs. Wright. They have owned this property for quite some time. It's their family cottage. The sewage system was originally installed in 1985, ended up being located on the vacant lot that they owned. And then again in 2009, when it was replaced, it ended up in the same location. So doing this, we're going to legalize the sewage system so that it's on the same property as the building and allow for some future development. The property owners do plan to tear most of the cottage and the cabin down. They're going to retain a portion that was rebuilt in 2009 or 10. That's something they're going to do in the future, and this will give them a little extra lot coverage to play with, although the addition that they're planning is very, very minor. I appreciate your time, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wilson. Would the owner like to make a comment?
It's coming in.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me? This is Roger Wright. I'm the owner along with Louise. And, as Heather, outlined, we'd like a little bit more lot coverage and actually rationalize our septic system with our with the existing cottage. We've been talking to our neighbors, the Snyders, they have no problem with this whatsoever. And, talking with various officials, in the township, we want everything above board, and we just want to, we want to join these properties, and we hope that the township approves this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wright. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? I'm informed we don't have anyone else, so are there questions from the members? I'll read the resolution. Moved by member Quinn, second by member Creaser. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 1420 ML Wright provided the following conditions are fulfilled. One, a registrable description, deed, of the severed lot, along with any required right-of-way, be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, along with a registered copy of the reference plan. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you very much, Ms. Coca. Stop video.
And the next application is B 1520. Rondelet. And that would be Mr. Crown again. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Application B 1520 is with respect to lands located part of Grandview Island. And the applicant is submitted under the name Rondelet. Again, I would direct the committee's attention to the application sketch that's in the agenda. The link is provided within the agenda itself. The application is for provisional consent to sever a new lot on Grandview Island to create a new vacant waterfront building lot. The retained lot will support the existing dwelling, boathouse, and the dock. Attached to the agenda, or a link provided with the agenda, is the planning justification report submitted by the owner concurrent with the application. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, just to confirm that both the severed lot and the retained lot will have frontages of over 900 feet. The severed lot will have a frontage of 900 feet and an area of 5 acres. The retained lot will have a frontage, water frontage of 950 feet and an area of plus or minus 5 acres. The notice for this application, like the other provisional consent application, was mailed on September 23rd. And as such, the 14-day notice requirement of the Planning Act has been satisfied. In response to that notice, the municipality has received 3 comments. On October 9th, we received a letter from the District Municipality of Muskoka, who advises they have no objections to the application, provided that the appropriate development controls are applied to conserve both the conifer thermal cover, the deer feeding areas and movement corridors, and to ensure the development occurs outside of the high-risk wildland fire hazard area identified by the district. We also have comments dated October 7th from Public Works, who advise they have no objections. We also have an email dated September 25th from the Building Department, who also advised that they have no objections as well. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, you have the detailed staff report. It was attached to your agenda. It's dated October 8th. Based on our review and analysis of the various provincial, district, and municipal plans and policies and regulations, we have no objections with the application, subject to the appropriate conditions. If committee wishes to consider the approval of the application, we are recommending, as set out on page 1 of our report, 6 conditions to be attached to the provisional consent. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation, but certainly willing to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Crown. And I see the applicant's agent may wish to speak on this. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Steve Fauner, Northern Vision Planning Limited, 109 Meadow Heights Drive, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L 1A4. I apologize. My internet for some reason is cutting in and out. So hopefully it'll will stay on board here for at least the duration of the presentation. So anyways, Chair Edwards, and good to see you, Wes Crown. Good to see you again. I do have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm hoping that that could be put up. And I guess first, would like to say I'm representing Marion Rondelet, who is the owner of the property. She is the spouse of David Grand. I think as maybe many people may know, the Grands do own the majority of Grandview Island. I have looked at the staff report and would like to thank staff and Wes for the positive report. And my client has no objection to the proposed conditions. So again, I don't know if the PowerPoint presentation is available. Just so that you know, Chair Edwards, I've tried to shorten up my PowerPoint presentations a bit and try and make them not so repetitive. So
Okay, so within the 5-minute timeline. Good, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Okay, next. Yeah, so it is the creation of a new waterfront lot on Grandview Island. The lot itself, as mentioned by Mr. Crown, is quite large, 900 feet of frontage and 5 acres. Next. And the retained lot is slightly larger, actually. And I would point out the actual frontage on these. If you were to look up the assessment data has indicated that the total actual frontage is over 2,300 feet. So, so the properties in actual frontage is certainly larger than what's been posted. Next. So here's a copy of the severance sketch. And I would point out just on the right-hand side or east side of the retained lot, for example, you'll see a wedge and you'll see a sort of a corresponding wedge on the east side of the severed lot. Back in the late 1980s, the 2-story boathouse on the retained lot was actually built on the wrong property. So what they did then was they took a piece off of the neighboring property. Again, it was all owned by the Grands. They made a land exchange, if you will, and that's why you see that a little jut out there of the easterly lot line, in particular the retained lot. Next. This is looking at the proposed severed lot. This is sort of the west end of it. You can see the neighbor's boathouse on the left side of the photograph. Next. And this is sort of the midpoint of the proposed severed lot. You can see it's heavily treed, mostly white pine in the shoreline vegetative buffer. Next. And this is on the property itself. This is towards the west end. You can see again, white pine and this area actually quite a bit of hemlock. Next. And as you move further to the east, the shoreline vegetative buffer and the vegetation in general actually gets thicker as you move to the east. Next. This is the proposed retained lot. You can see the existing 2-story boathouse on the left. There is a main swim dock you can see on the right portion, and the existing dwelling is right behind the swim dock. Next. And this is the existing dwelling on the subject lands. It slopes up a bit from the waterfront, and then it's quite level where the dwelling is. And this is the existing 2-story boathouse. Again, it was originally built on the wrong property. Next. So in terms of the analysis, the lot sizes certainly far exceed the general minimum size of 200 feet an acre. There is in the township official plan a larger size requirement for island properties. Next. And deer wintering policy, there is a policy related to that requires 300 feet of frontage, and we certainly far exceed that. Next. There is a letter forthcoming from Walker's Point Marina. I'm not sure why I haven't received it yet. I've spoken personally with Mr. John Dunn, the owner of the marina. I do know John from years gone by, and he said it's forthcoming. I haven't yet received it. I see it is included as a condition of consent, and again, we certainly agree with that, and we will be able to fulfill that. Next. So in the conclusions, it's my opinion that it is consistent with the PPS and conforms with the district and local official plans. And again, the severed lot is quite large, and it's compatible with lots in the vicinity. The property is very developable. There's no development constraints on the property. Next. And site plan control is already imposed by the -7 zone. And my client is aware of that. So, and again, once again, we'll receive the water access security, if you will, from the local marina, which is Walker's Point Marina. Thank you, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fawner. And would the applicant like to say something? No, okay. And I have to ask, is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application or anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? And since we have no one in the queue, I will go to questions from the members. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
Does the applicant plan to further subdivide the severed lot?
That's not in question at this time.
It's just a question. If they had an answer, that'd be fine. If not, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Through Chair Edwards, I can answer that question if you wish. Certainly at this time, there's no plans at all to sever the property. It is has been placed on the open market. So, you know, whether a future owner considers that, I don't know. Interestingly, I'm involved in the severance of a very large piece of property elsewhere in the municipality. And what I've been getting from information we've been getting from real estate agents, there seems to be a demand out there for some very large lots. And in fact, we actually enlarged some lots on another proposal that you'll be seeing sometime in the future. We've enlarged them from what was previously thought. So maybe there's a demand there just for these large lots. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fawner. Is there any other questions? Moved by Member Bosworth, second by Member Green. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B0520ML Montolet, provided the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, a registrable description deed of the separate lot, along with any required right-of-ways, be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that a consent agreement with the township under Section 5126 of the Planning Act be entered into wherein the applicants agree not to utilize public parking or docking facilities as the principal means of access to the severed and retained lots. This agreement is to be registered on title. 3, the confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the severed and retained lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, that any problems identified with any existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. 4, that the applicant demonstrates there are sufficient facilities for mainland parking and docking available. 5, that cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created vacant lot or the entire lands, whichever is less. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. And we go into application A3020 Novak. Pardon? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-20 in the name of Hogarth. The subject property is known municipally as 1063 Christie Point Road, Unit 7. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 95 of the agenda package. The application was adjourned at the September 14th meeting to allow for the applicant to increase the size of the garage. The committee also requested the cumulative width of the shoreline structures be reduced. The applicant has come back with a new plan that has an increased garage size, and the applicant is also proposing to reduce the cumulative dock width by 3 feet. The applicant proposes to construct a new garage, a mudroom addition to the existing dwelling, and a first-story boathouse addition. The proposed structures will result in 10.4% lot coverage on the entire lot and 10.7% lot coverage within 200 feet of the high water mark. The required coverage is 10%. The variances requested are 0.4% and 0.7% respectively. The proposed boathouse addition will result in a cumulative width of 54 feet. The maximum permitted cumulative width is 40 feet. The required variance is 14 feet. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance, and 2 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Neil Donald, the township's chief building official. The Development Services Department has no Ontario Building Code objections. The second submission is by Wayne Gibson, a neighboring property owner. The submission is as follows. I have read the amended submission for Mr. Hogarth's minor variance application and still have objections with his proposed boathouse and dock additions. As noted in my previous letter of September 12th, 2020 to the Committee of Adjustment, I have no objection to the garage and mudroom additions as they comply with lot coverage and are well hidden from lake views. However, as Mr. Hogarth has chosen not to reduce the proposed boathouse width and has only slightly reduced the cumulative dock width, I strongly object to these proposed additions. The township's official plan and zoning bylaws limit density and maximum frontage of boathouses and docks, and I believe we should abide by those bylaws. The Hogarth boathouse is already at the maximum permitted width of 16%, and would greatly exceed any allowed variance with the proposed addition, 21.6%. Mr. Hogarth also plans to add new docks of about 62 feet in the front of the boathouse and existing non-conforming docks. This number is misleading as it looks like he also plans on building the previously approved 28-foot wide dock, giving him 90 feet of shoreline dock where the cumulative maximum dock width allows for the property is 62.5 feet. I believe the proposed docks and boathouse built form is excessive and would dominate the shoreline. I concur with staff that the shoreline structure width should be reduced. I would also be notified of the decision of this committee. Sincerely, Wayne Gibson. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. Staff have concerns and recommend the shoreline structure width be reduced. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
You are muted, Mr. Chair.
Sorry about that. Would the applicant or applicant's agent wishing to comment on this?
Hi there. Yes. Good morning. Just trying to turn the camera on here. There we go. It's Nicholas DeConing with DeConing Group Inc. at 33 Lee Valley Drive, Port Carling, POB 1J0. We're back again because in the last meeting I presented a change to the size in the garage. So that was the recirculation was done as required to do this. So we listened to the committee and we took this opportunity to make adjustments as per the committee's feedback. In the last meeting, presented a garage size of 30 by 38, and we've now reduced that to 30 by 36. This decreases it by 5%. So we're only asking for relief in lot coverage of 369 square feet. One of the concerns that was brought up was the proposed 6-foot wide dock to the south. So we're proposing to remove 11'6" of the existing dock width at the shoreline to move the proposed dock to the north closer to the boathouse. We also looked at removing existing posts that adds 6'3" to the cumulative width of the boathouse. This is possible, but would come at a significant cost of around $15,000. And this post is only 4 feet out from the shoreline. If you look at the pictures, you'll see the post has very little visual impact. So because of this and the costs associated, we would like to keep the post. With the post not included in the equation, the width is only 47 foot 9 inches, and this is only 7 foot 9 inches over the permitted 40 feet. To reiterate from the last meeting, the garage will be single story with a loft. The garage is required to store cars, a pickup truck, an electric car, and charging equipment, as well as for ATVs and snowmobiles, as the cottage is used year round, which helps support the local economy, which is needed for the storage of equipment and vehicles in the off season. As mentioned, we reduced the width by 2 feet to make it as small as possible while still functional. The loft will be used for storage of items such as patio furniture, clothing, other off-season equipment, snowmobile helmets and gear. And the cottage and bunkyard are already designed with sufficient bedrooms. However, storage is the major lacking feature in the property. The presentation document that we sent last week, which I assume you all received, you can see on the first page, we did an overlay of the proposed versus what we were able to do as of right. The hatched area showing what we can do as of right, and the red indicates what we are proposing to do for the boathouse and docks. It's clear that the as of right development that we can do is egregious compared to what we are proposing. Just to add some numerical values to the difference between the two options. As of right, we can do approximately 1,681.7 feet squared of docked area. We are proposing only 461.5 square feet. For the boathouse, as of right, we can add approximately 611.4 square feet of boathouse area. We are proposing only 384 square feet. The proposed docks only come out 52 feet from shoreline, versus as of right, we're allowed to come out 66 feet. The proposed boathouse only comes out 31 feet versus the as of right, we are allowed to come out 50 feet. Again, if you look at the document that was provided, you'll see the extent to which the boathouse can project into the bay as of right. We want to avoid this as it is visually unappealing and does not suit the characteristics and concerns of the narrow body of water that is Stills Bay. The proposed design also is more favorable to the neighbors per letters that were provided. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application?
There's a neighbor, Wayne Gibson.
Or is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? We're just waiting for somebody to log in.
Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. Hello, can you hear me, Chair? Unmute, Mr.
Yes, can you speak up just a little louder though, please?
Yes, I'm sorry, I don't have a picture. I sent in the second letter and I don't really have anything more to add to it other than the fact that, you know, the shoreline structures with the dock and the boathouse, you know, I think is much larger than allowed in the bylaw. It's not just simply a few feet, and I think it would be a negative impact on the shoreline, and that's why I'm again objecting to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from the members? I'll go to and that member Bosworth first, and then member Quinn.
Yes, the referenced as Wright diagrams were not included in the package. Is there some way that we could see those?
Yeah, we've got them right here. So you can see the hatched area versus the red outline. So the hatched is what we can do. The red is what we are proposing to do.
Take off your tape if you want to be seen.
Thank you.
I don't want to be seen.
Did the members not get a email with the pictures and that on it? Because it was sent out. Yes. Yeah, it was sent out. Okay.
Sorry, I must have missed it.
Yeah. Okay. Member Quinn.
Yeah, I believe that the last time we had some neighbors, maybe immediate and people that look at it, we had some letters of support. Would it be possible to hear what they had to say? And he has cut it back a bit on what I'm going to call the southeast side, but 3 feet was pretty minor. I'd like to see that come in some more.
Yes, Member Green.
Yeah, I kind of object to people who tell us what they could do versus what, you know, they want to do that they consider minor. I mean, because to me that it's a great way of blackmailing your neighbor. You know, I want to do this little bit extra that's wrong, that's not allowed, but guess what? I could do this instead. And to me, you know, the fact that you can move forward as of right, fine. I mean, the issue is the dominance of built form on the shoreline and its impact on wildlife that may be sustained along the shoreline. And in this case, the boathouse is getting wider, you know, and another boat slip is going in. And I feel that based on the last meeting, which I didn't attend, but I did take a look at the minutes, not a lot of change has happened to this boathouse since, even though the applicant was sort of directed to make changes. So I go along with what Joe has said and feel not enough has been done.
Yeah, just to speak to that. So the actual addition to the width of the boathouse is away from the shoreline. So there'll be no changes to the shoreline vegetation, and we do feel it is buffered fairly well. Furthermore, you know, that the main concerns have been with the boathouse structure coming out into Stills Bay. So we definitely feel that the small variance in width is a less significant impact than the basic coming out from shoreline that we can do or will do with both the docks and the boathouse structure.
Yes, Member Quinn.
Well, I believe at the last meeting, we were pretty happy for the most part what we saw and had neighbor support. And we asked him to pull in that one end and redraw the garage. I think that he's gone away and done most of what we've asked him to do. I would just like to see more than 3 feet off of that one end of the dock, and I will support this.
Is the agent there?
Well, yeah, so it is actually at the shoreline, it is 11'6". We realize with the setback, it's only 3 feet, but we have removed that shoreline portion of that dock. And one of the main issues at this property is the boat parking. Our client has a lot of family and friends on the lake, as well as his own boats and equipment. And we'd really like to maintain that to be able to have the parking for said boats.
And that just for the members, if they have the additional package that was sent out on page 4 of that, and you see a picture of the boathouse on the left-hand side. It's very hard to see, but there's a post that comes down there, And is one of the ones that they were talking about, not having to move, which then adds to the width, even though it's set back almost on the shore. If you could look at that. Yes, Member Quinn?
Well, with this bay and you know, with the traffic coming out of Stills Bay, and he's not going out to 66 feet, and he already has dock width, I like, I mean, he has a matter of right stuff, and I'm happy that he's not exercising it, and I'm afraid he might do that if we don't work with him today. So I just wish we could pull, and now that I hear that it's 11 feet off the end of that dock, I don't know why 3 was presented to us.
Okay.
Can the planners clarify that or make that clear for me?
Through your chair, Edwards. So I have looked back at the previous comments we got last time. Would you like me to read them out individually, the letters of support, or just summarize their general?
Just summarize it.
Just summarize. So in general,
yes, Mr. Just met and that you have a supplemental. Mr. Quinn, you're muted.
I think it's important because Lisa, I think she should hear those letters or a summarization of them because she wasn't on the last meeting.
Okay, we'll have them read then. Thank you.
okay, I can read them each. So there was 3 additional submissions last meeting in support of the application. The first one was from Jill Dickey, a neighbor property owner, and the submission is as follows. Mr. Hogarth has shared with me his proposal for widening his boathouse at 1063 Christie Point, Unit 7. I have an interest in this proposal as I'm a neighbor at 1063 Christie Point, Unit 1. I understand he requires approval from council to proceed. Alternatively, he could lengthen his boathouse, which would not require any approvals as it would be permitted under the bylaws. I would much prefer the widening versus the lengthening of the boathouse in front of Mr. Hogarth's cottage and hope you will take this into account in your decision. The next submission was from Sarah Farrell, a neighboring property owner. The submission is as follows. To whom it may concern, we are in support of the widening of the boathouse at Unit 7, 1063 Christie Point, the Hogarth Cottage. Thank you, Sarah Farrell. And the third submission of support was from James White, who lives across the bay and is a neighboring property owner. To whom it may concern, I understand my neighbor Chris Hogarth is applying for a variance on his property to expand the boathouse. He showed me 2 options for the boathouse, and one allows for 4 boats inside, but this boathouse becomes extremely long and extends way out into the water. Stills Bay is already a narrow channel, and adding boathouse length in our belief is not appropriate. He has also showed me a plan that is apparently wider than the bylaw would allow, but does not extend into the lake far. If our opinion matters, we would far prefer this option as it would have less of an impact on the visual appearance for anyone traveling into and out of Stills Bay.
Could have written back and say, I do not support it.
And those,
That's why chat
And one
Jones to control.
those were the 3 submissions from last time. Thanks. Oh, sorry, there's one more here. One more, sorry. From Laura Bissett, on behalf of her mother, Jean Bissett, who is also a neighboring property owner and is in support of the lengthening of the boathouse, but not the widening, but is opposed to the new fingered dock closest to their shared lot line. That was all the submissions of support that came in last time.
Thank you. And Mr. Sharp, you raised your hand.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Member Quinn had a question. Ms. Walker and I were in the midst of finding those submissions, so I just want to make sure that I was understanding the question correctly. So if Mr. Quinn still has a question, could he repeat that for us?
Okay, Mr. Quinn.
I believe that you've answered my question for the most part. I'm just wondering if we could show the north end of these docks. We've got it. If without getting into his architecture and his plans, we've got some off the one side of the property, but I would like to look at the docks to the north, and maybe we can get another 3 feet there and make this palatable, easily palatable.
Yeah, so we would be willing to take an additional 3 feet off the north side of the dock if that was satisfactory to the committee for this application.
I think that would help. I think it comes in on an angle, and your potential of at a later point being able to add to it or go out 66 feet. I would be really happy if you took 3 feet off the north end.
Okay. Yeah, and back to the other point about the south end, that is from the projected lot line. So it's 11'6" at the shoreline, and it's 3 feet at the projected lot line, to clarify that point.
Okay, yes, Mr. Bosworth.
Both the township official plan and the bylaws have many references to built impact on the shoreline. The planner representative, the applicant, pointed out that this will do exactly what our official plan and bylaws are trying to avoid, which is overbuilt form on the shoreline. I count that with these additions, they will be able to park 13 to 14 boats at these docks, which will have a huge impact on the lake. They're adding 3 or 4 docks based on the docking spots. I don't see anything favorable about this application other than we're caught between a rock and a hard place on our bylaws. I don't really support it in principle at all.
Any other comments from the members? Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
If I may continue, I think what Member Grogan Green has pointed out, that the applicant has provided, a very nasty scenario with a very unpleasant scenario and said, please choose.
Just stating, it's not a nasty scenario. That is a right to go out 66 feet. And, sometimes it's better to keep it close to the shoreline. And that's what they are trying. If you look at your drawings on what could be allowed.
I understand that,
and
Mr. Chair.
taking the extra 3 feet off and that, but I will just, any other comments from any members? No other comments?
We'd just like to point out, though, both scenarios allow for a significant amount of boat parking, be it the scenario under the bylaw or the scenario under the variance. So either way, there'll be additional boat parking.
Mr. Pink, do we have to make any changes to the amounts on this?
I think those amounts are what was circulated.
They were circulated, but then they've taken 3 feet off the dock here and there, and
I think that was prepared based on those.
this is prepared based on this. I'll read this, and if there's any questions, let's very. I think to the applicant's agent, the community and that boat have width went from 54 feet down to 47.6 or something like that. 47.9.
Yeah, so it's 47. If we don't consider the post, it's basically 47'9" of actual boathouse. So that's only 7'9" over the 40 feet that's permitted. So just that one little column is adding that extra amount of width by your calculation. However, the actual visual.
So what is the actual
54 feet, I believe.
It's 54 feet.
Oh, it is 54 feet. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, with the post.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah,
That, just so that everyone understands that, it's just that little notch on the, if you look at the drawing, just that little notch where it comes out the walkway. Okay, moved by member, yes, Mr. Bollingsworth.
Sorry, I'm not sure. Are we taking the 3 feet off the north dock as well? As suggested by Member Quinn?
Yep.
And that, we made note of that. Okay,
Very, very well. As much as I don't particularly see the redeeming features of this, I will support it.
yeah, okay, thank you. I will read the motion. Moved by member Green, second by member Bosworth. Be it resolved that application A 2020 amended Hogarth to permit the construction of addition to an existing dwelling mudroom and the addition to existing boathouse, boat slip with a rooftop sun deck and a new garage, and the following variances being granted. One, to permit a lot coverage of 5,418 square feet or 10.7% within the lot area 200 feet from the high water mark. To permit a lot coverage of 5,418 square feet or 10% of the entire lot. And to permit the cumulative boat width to be 54 feet or 21.6%. These variants are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And we need reasons. Reasons,
Neighbors support?
okay,
Good, good planning report and making concessions of what could have been.
okay. Thank you very much. Pardon?
We need a break.
Yeah, and we'll just take a comfort break at this point of 10 minutes. Thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Okay, and we need the effect of the written and oral submissions. Anyone like to chime in? I think it was a very good planning in that report, support from the neighbors. And I think it is minor in nature. Thank you. And the next application is A2420 Watt.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-24/20 in the name of Watt. The subject property is known municipally as 1114 Bruce Lake Drive. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 111 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants wish to recognize existing as-built lot coverage. The maximum permitted lot coverage on the entire lot is 1,248.6 square feet or 8%. The proposed lot coverage on the entire lot is 1,381.1 square feet or 8.8%. The requested variance equates to 132.5 square feet over the permitted maximum. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance. It is noted that committee adjourned the application in September due to a technicality with the posting of the public notice sign on the subject property. The application is now being recirculated and 2 new submissions have been received. The first submission is by Carol and Milan Kovac, who are area landowners, and their submission reads as follows. We wholeheartedly support the approval of the variance respecting the shed. Michael and Nancy have been exemplary neighbors and property owners on Bruce Lake. From day one, they built and maintained their property to a high standard, always having consideration for not only their neighbors, but for the natural beauty of the Muskoka environment. Their notice of variance is clearly visible for all to see, and we fully support the approval of the variance. And again, that's by Carol and Milan Kovac. The second submission is by Christina and Dan Badarensky, who are area landowners, and they have stated that they have no objections. I have prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration. If committee is considering approval of the application, staff have recommended a condition requiring that an existing woodshed be removed or brought into compliance with applicable zoning bylaw provisions. The woodshed has not been included in lot coverage calculations. It would otherwise result in a lot coverage amount of 9.3%. The woodshed also does not comply with the side yard setback requirement of 15 feet. As noted in staff's updated report, the applicants have requested that a $325 recirculation fee be refunded in full. I have no further comments at this time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that committee may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here? There's no one here to speak on this. So, and there are questions from the members. I would just make one comment. The applicant has asked for the fees to be returned. And it was basically a technicality. The sign was on a post that blew around, so it wasn't not visible. And I think under these circumstances, I could support a motion to return the fees. But I'll leave that up to the committee. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Quinn.
Has the neighbor made any comment on the woodshed? Because I believe is that the woodshed that's referred to with let's call it figure 4?
Mr. Sharp?
Through you, Chair Edwards, to Member Quinn. That is correct. The woodshed in question is the shed that's indicated in Figure 4 of the staff report.
I guess if the neighbor has no objection to that, or I don't know what's, it's already a mess, and I think it's going to become a bigger mess. I want to support you, but I'm afraid of what that pile is going to look like in the end.
Yes, Mr. Sharp.
Through you, Chair Edwards, to Member Quinn. I think the issue is that shed is not being included in lot coverage. As you can tell through Figure 4, it is a roofed structure and it does contribute to lot coverage. The amount of lot coverage that can be considered by committee without an official plan amendment is 8.8%. Anything beyond that would necessitate a official plan amendment. And I would also note that the shed doesn't comply with the side yard setback of 15 feet. So essentially, if committee is looking to approve the application as per staff's recommendation, there will be a requirement to redevelop that shed in compliance with the zoning bylaw provisions. So it would essentially require the removal of the roof and moving it over slightly so that it complies with the side yard setback.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Did you ask if the agent or anybody?
I did ask, and there's nobody here reasons being support or against the application. Moved by Member Creaser, second by Member Green. Be it resolved that application A 2420 Watt to permit the existing as-built lot coverage to be 1,381.1 square feet or 8.8% is shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision is hereby approved, subject to the following condition. 1, that the existing woodshed be removed or brought into compliance with applicable zoning bylaw provisions. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years of the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And the question about returning the fees.
I agree that we should return the fees. It was a minor technicality.
Yeah, anybody else? All in favor with that? That is carried. Okay, so David, would you return the fees then, please? And the next application, oh, yes. The effects, neighbors were in support. It brings the bylaw into in that compliance.
And very minor in nature.
And very minor in nature, and a good staff report. Thank you. Next application is A 3020 Novak.
Before we start, Chair Edwards, I think Bryce had a question.
Yes, Mr. Sharp.
Apologies, Chair Edwards. I just wanted to make sure that the intent of the fee refund was just to return the fee for the recirculation, not the total fees.
No, just recirculation fee. Yeah.
No. So I just wanted to make sure and clarify.
Oh, no, it's just recirculation fee.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-30-20 in the name of Novak. The subject property is known municipally as 1095 Dudley Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 124 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant proposes to reconstruct an existing dock. The proposed dock will have a different configuration than the existing dock. The proposed dock will be 14.5 feet from the side yard and the required setback is 15 feet. The requested variance is 0.5 feet. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance, and one submission has been received to date. The first submission is by Neil Donald, the Township's Chief Building Official. The Development Services Department has no Ontario Building Code objections. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have no objections. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. And is there anyone here wishing to speak in support of the applicant or applicant's agent? Okay.
Good morning, Heather Wilson Consulting Services, representing the Novaks. My address 1014 Manitoba Street, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L 1W9. The Novaks application is really quite simple. They need to replace their dock. It's become in a condition of disrepair, and it gets hit every year by the ice, just based on its location. The proposal now is to rebuild it, same size, same basic size and footprint, but instead of having a slip in the middle, they just want the one dock coming out with a spot beside it to park the boat. That portion that is approximately 12 by 19, I believe, is actually going to be a dock that can lift up in the winter. They're hoping that way they won't have to keep replacing and repairing the dock over the years due to the ice. The dock was originally built many years ago, and it did encroach over the lot line onto the road allowance beside it. In 1996, it was rebuilt with a building permit and moved over so that it was entirely within the projected lot line. Hence the 2.5 foot side yard setback that is currently there. The actual addition to the dock really isn't substantial, and it's really going to make the dock more usable for them and hopefully save them some money over the years in repairs. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wilson. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? Seeing none, are there questions from the members? If not, I'll read the motion. Moved by member Quinn, second by member Bosworth. Be it resolved that application A3020 Novak to permit the construction of a dock 14 feet from the side lot line as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision is hereby approved. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. And it cause and effect?
Minor in nature, and it's essentially maintaining the same footprint.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next application is A3120 Durante.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-31-20 in the name of Durante. The subject property is known municipally as 1221 East Bay Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 140 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant is proposing to rebuild the existing sun decks on the property and construct 3 new sun decks. The proposed sun decks will be set back 14 feet, 25 feet, and 14 feet from the high water mark. The required front yard setback is 50 feet. The variances required are 36 feet, 25 feet, and 36 feet respectively. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance, and 4 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Neil Donald, the Township's Chief Building Official. The Development Services Department has no Ontario Building Code objections. The second submission is by Tony Grant, a neighboring property owner. The submission is as follows. Today we received the notice from the Township about your deck. We want you to know that we think it looks great and you can expect our support. The third submission is by Ryan and April Beluz. neighboring property owners. The submission is as follows. We reviewed and have no issues with your plans. Good luck with the work. The fourth submission is by Leslie Willis, a neighboring property owner. The submission is as follows. I don't have any concerns here. This looks like a great addition to our waterfront. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. If committee is considering approval, staff recommend that a site plan agreement be entered into along with securities for the revegetation of the property and the retention of the existing vegetation. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rosberg. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in support of this application? Yes, the owner. Okay, thank you.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, how are you? I'm Mirko Durante. I'm the property owner. Hopefully the application follows all the applicable requirements, and I will enter into anything that is required to satisfy the township.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there questions from the members? I have one, and that to the planners. With the lot coverage and that, did we include the deck, if it's a Dura deck or anything else like that, David, or can somebody answer that?
Through you, Chair Edwards, I may look to Ms. Walker to confirm, but I don't believe that the decks are intended to be Dura deck, but again, I'd look to her to confirm.
Okay, no, it's just that we have come across this and that before. I just didn't know how close we were to lot coverage.
That's correct. It's not a Dura deck, I believe, being proposed. That wasn't indicated, so it wasn't included in the lot coverage.
Good. Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Any other questions or comments? I'll read the motion. Oh, sir, you had your hand up? Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to double check that this revegetation plan is taking place. I can't remember whether it's in the resolution and I can't find it in my notes.
Yeah. Okay, I'll read the resolution if you have any comments after. Moved by member Bosworth, second by member Creaser, be it resolved that application A31 Durante to permit the construction of 3 new sun decks in separate locations and on 2 levels with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit the new sun deck 14 feet and 25 feet at the closest point from the high water mark. These variants are granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision is hereby approved subject to the following condition. 1, that a site plan agreement be entered into along with securities for revegetation of the property and retention of the existing vegetation. This agreement is to be registered on title. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
Just a question for staff. When we have securities for plantings, do we specify what kind of plantings are required? You know, a 3-foot bush is very different than a large coniferous, which would, in my opinion, more meet the intent of our bylaws and official plan.
Through you, Chair members, Chair Edwards. So yeah, certainly we do try to peg down the specific native plantings that would be required in a site plan agreement. In the odd case, we do leave it up to a landowner to choose either deciduous or coniferous, but I believe in this instance, Ms. Walker had indicated in her report that we will be looking for conifers. Typically, we require conifers to be 6 feet in height, although that's not always possible given some of the soil conditions that we have here in Muskoka that can be quite shallow. So sometimes a shorter tree will actually will actually do better. So I don't know if that answers your question. Happy to elaborate if needed.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. And yeah. Reasons?
Neighbor support. Good staff report and minor.
Okay. And the next one is A 3220.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-32-20 in the name of Rowan Jolly. The subject property is known municipally as 1026 Dan Bell Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 158 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to renovate their existing dwelling to add a second story. The proposed second story is to be 11 feet from the side lot line. The required setback is 15 feet. The variance requested is 4 feet. The proposed second story is to be set back 21 feet from the high water mark. The required front yard setback is 50 feet. The variance requested is 29 feet. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance, and 2 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Neil Donald, the township's chief building official. The Development Services Department has no Ontario Building Code objections. The second submission is by Olga and Peter Garyluk, neighboring property owners. The submission is as follows. We are the adjacent neighbors of the Row Cottage. The address of our property is 1015 Unit 1 Post Road. From the paperwork received regarding the Committee of Adjustment hearing, as well as the conversations with the owner, Rob, we understand the following to be correct. 1, the owner plans to rebuild the dwelling on the property. Any construction on the property pertaining to the dwelling rebuild would be done within the existing footprint of the current dwelling. And number 3, the plan is to add an upper level as well as a partial lower level. Based on the above points being true and accurate representation of the planned project, we have no objection to the proposed build at 1026 Dan Bell Road. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. If committee is considering approval, staff recommend the following conditions. That a site plan agreement be entered into along with securities for the revegetation of the property. That satisfactory confirmation be received that the property does not consist of separately conveyable lots on a plan of subdivision. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is there anyone wishing to speak on this? Okay, and there is somebody to speak on this, the owner, so thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Trina Clark, and I'm the agent representing the clients today. I'm located at 167 Medora Street, Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0, and I'm here on behalf of T-Square Design Studio. So the front yard setback that was mentioned, the variance requested is 29 feet, and the side yard setback is 4 feet. Our client is proposing to add a second level addition to their existing cottage, so it's described a little bit, the email that you guys had just heard is a little different than what the actual proposal is. They're just looking to do a second level addition. So as mentioned in the report, by proposing this addition, it will be utilizing the existing footprint of the cottage, which eliminates the need to remove or disturb the natural vegetation on the property. The setbacks will remain as they stand today and will not be reduced in any manner. Overall property is well vegetated, and the owners are willing to enter into a site plan agreement and plant more vegetation in order to allow the natural form to dominate. The cottage is also tucked in behind the existing boathouse, so this will also help provide a buffer from the water's edge and reduce the noise travel. With regards to the legal description of the separate lots, the client is willing to proceed with merging the two together to form one. That's not an issue at all. And we agree with the staff that this application is minor in nature and meets all of the other zoning bylaw requirements. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the
owner.
and the owner? Okay, and then we'll bring the owner in now.
Good afternoon, or good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Rob Rowe. My wife Jessica and Jolly are the owners of the property. The only thing that I would like to add is that we asked our neighbor, Olga, to give us that letter because she is the one that's really affected by it. The rest of the neighbors on the bay, just owing to the way the shoreline is and the way their properties or their dwellings are set back from the shore, they would not see the second story of or the proposed second story of the cottage. So we didn't seek any input from them personally. The other thing I would like to add is we have an existing hydro corridor that comes down on our property adjacent to the driveway and then splits off and supplies the rest of the cottages on that bay and some around the other side with power. So we are restricted in that we can't move back because of that hydro right away. So I would just like to add that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And I have to ask, is there anyone else wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? And there isn't, so questions from the members. Yes, Member Green.
I'm just curious from the planners, like how do you calculate building height on a lot like that where it's falling towards the shore? Because the rendering looks like it's a 3-story building, not a 2-story building. And so I had to take an extra look at the drawing.
Mr. Sharp?
Through you, Chair Edwards. Well, essentially, we measure height to the highest peak of roof from the lowest grade. From the lowest grade to the highest peak of roof. That's up.
Yes, hello. This is Rob Rowe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, does that answer your question? Yes, Mr. Bosenberg.
So it is now going to have a basement where it did not have a basement before, is that true?
Would someone like to answer that?
Through you, Chair Edwards, I would maybe look to Ms. Clark to see if she can elaborate on that. It does look like the proposed dwelling has a walkout basement, but irregardless, the basement as it's designed, the height would be measured from essentially from where the basement meets the ground at the lowest grade to the highest peak of roof.
Yes.
So currently it doesn't appear to be on, or it doesn't appear to have a basement. It looks to be on piers. So it looks like they will be adding that foundation at the bottom, but the cottage won't be raised in any manner and we're still within height restrictions.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll read the resolution. Moved by member Quinn, second by member Creaser, be it resolved that application A 3220 Rowe and Jolly to permit the renovation of an existing dwelling and the construction of a second-story addition with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit the second story to be 11 feet from the side lot line. 2, to permit a second story to be 21 feet at the closest point from the high water mark. These variances will be granted shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision are hereby subject to the following conditions. 1, the site plan agreement be entered into along with securities for revegetation of the property. This agreement is to be registered on title. 2, that satisfactory confirmation be received that the property does not, the satisfactory confirmation be received that the property does not consent of separate conveyable lots on the plan of subdivision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. And the reason.
Neighbor support, and it's minor in nature.
Okay.
I think we're planting the site plan, and they'll probably have something about, the water coming off the roof and how to handle it. I think it's a bonus to have it.
Very good. And the next application is A 3320.
I think that's me, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The application is item 9F on your agenda. The file number is A3320. It's with respect to 1128 Sunset Bay Road, and it's under the names Lechowski and Powell. You'll see in the agenda package there is a site plan link for the application. The application, as noted, is for relief from section 4135 of bylaw 2014-14, being the existing front yard setback for sun decks. The proposed sun deck would have a setback of 37 feet from the high water mark. The variance that's being requested is therefore 7 feet. The notice of the application was circulated on October 20th, so the 10-day notice requirement of the Planning Act has been satisfied. We have one comment with respect to that application. I'm going to see if I can find it here quickly. Yes, so we have an email dated September 25th from the building department reporting that they have no objections. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, you have the detailed staff report in front of you with respect to this application, and based on our review of the relevant policies and plans and regulations, we have no objections to the application. That concludes my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Crown. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
Both owners are here.
Okay. I'd like to bring them on, please.
Hello.
Hello?
I wasn't sure if you were hearing me.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm the spouse of one of the applicants and heard the documentation.
Could we have your name and address? And
I'm sorry, John Powell, 5 The Green Pines, Toronto, M9C 235. Thank you for your time on our proposal. I don't think I have anything to add. The study from the planning is consistent with what we're thinking. It doesn't interfere with the neighbors. It will improve the use and maintainability of the cottage. That's all I have to say, unless, but I'm open to any questions you have.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in this on this application?
The other owners there.
And
I'm here too.
Can I have your name and address and postal code?
Lori Lakowski. Can you hear me?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. 1128 Sunset Bay Road, P0C1A0. And I'm in agreement with my brother-in-law that the variance will satisfy all the requirements, and I have no changes. My brother-in-law happens to be an engineer, and I know he wrote up the plan very carefully as well, and I'm looking at it now, so I'm hoping it'll be approved. I know the neighbors are in agreement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I have to ask, is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? Seeing none. Other questions from the members? Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
Just a clarification on the staff report that said the location of the proposed deck will create more privacy for neighbors. Could you expand on that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not exactly sure where in the report that the member is referring to, but I think our analysis was based on the fact that the proposed sun deck is directly in front of the existing cottage, and that the property is significantly wooded both on the sides and along the shoreline, save and except for where the boathouse is. And it was our opinion based on that the proposed new sun deck would not have an impact on the neighbors on either side. Hopefully that satisfies the members' question.
Anyone else? I'll read the motion. Moved by member Creaser, second by member Green. Be it resolved that application A 3320 Lachowski and Powell to permit the construction of addition to an existing deck 37 feet at the closest point from the high water mark as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision is hereby approved. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of the decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And the reasons in effect.
I think it's minor in nature. I think that the building will be more aesthetically appeasing from the front, so it will be better for the area.
Okay.
Well protected from the view from the lake because of the natural vegetation. It's going to remain intact.
And the next application is A 3420.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that's myself again. This is item 9G on your agenda. Again, it's file number A3420 for 1070 Kissett Road. It's submitted under the name OSAC. Again, I would direct the committee to the site plan. There's a link provided within the agenda. The applicant proposes a one-story garage. And to permit that construction, relief is required from the 10% maximum lot coverage provision of section 4136 and 4137 of the zoning bylaw. The total coverage of the existing and the proposed buildings is 4,329 square feet or 11%, and therefore 1% variance has been applied for to your committee. The notice, I should note there is a planning justification report submitted with the application, and a link for that is included in your agenda. Notice was provided on October 2nd, and therefore the 10-day notice requirements of the Planning Act have been satisfied. We have received one comment, and it's an email dated September 25th from the municipality's building department, and they have no objections to the application. You also have the detailed staff report, and based on our review and analysis, we have no objections to the application. Mr. Chairman, again, willing to answer any questions that the committee has.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. Is there anyone wishing to speak in support of this application? Yes. The agent, Steve Fauner. Okay.
Yes, good morning once again, Chair Allen and members of committee. Steve Fauner, Northern Vision Planning Limited, 109 Meadow Heights Drive, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L 1A4. I'm here representing Warren Osak with this particular application, and it is to go to 11% lot coverage. I would like to thank staff for their positive report on this particular application. And I have a brief PowerPoint presentation to go through on this one. Thank you, David. Go ahead, next slide. Thank you. So again, the proposal is to go to 11% lot coverage, and this is to allow for a single-story garage, 16.5 by 26. My client originally had wanted a two-car garage, and we certainly had some discussions about that as to whether that would reasonably be approved. And I had indicated that he's definitely best to stick within the 11% at the very most. Next. So this is showing the site plan, and you can see that the proposed garage is behind the dwelling. It's over 140 feet back from the water's edge, and as well from the westerly lot line, it's 34 feet setback, which is twice your normal requirement. Next. This is just a bit of a close-up showing that as well. Next. This is just showing the garage itself. So a roof line that matches the current dwelling. It is a modern style with a very low-pitched hip roof on it, and this has a decorative shed roof coming out in front of the door there to make it an attractive looking building. Next. So this is the property itself. This is the dwelling from the front. Again, the proposed garage is well behind this particular structure. Next. And this is the rear of the garage again, or sorry, the rear of the dwelling, and shows again a fairly modern design. The lot coverage has included the garage as well as screen room. And that's all been calculated in. Next. So this is from my previous position. This is sort of turning right around behind me, and this is where the proposed garage would go. Next. This is just a little closer in. You can actually see that there's an existing pathway. There's a boat trailer currently parked there. It is used, I believe, for parking from time to time. And just by way of dimension and so forth, actually the single car garage will fit, perfectly within this, with no tree cover being required to be removed. Next. This just further, it just shows there's a slope up to the back. There is a propane tank you can see sort of in the middle of the picture. That's up by the road. And the property does slope up immediately behind the proposed garage. Next. This is on the westerly lot line. There's a bit of a berm there, and as well as planted and natural vegetation. So it's very well screened from the neighboring property to the west. And again, it's proposed to be 34 feet from the property line. Next. This is the at the rear of the property. This is the septic system that is there. Of course, there's no impact on septic because this is a non-habitable building, but that is something that has to be considered in the location of any structures on the property. Next. So in terms of planning analysis, again, your front yard setback minimum is 66 feet, and we are well beyond that at 145 feet. Shoreline buffers not being impacted. Certainly the policy contemplates going to 11%. That is in the policy, and provided that we meet the criteria, and I'll just briefly go through that. This criteria is noted in the staff report on page 6 of the staff report as well. So again, cumulative impact, again, in my opinion, this will have insignificant impact. Whether the building is habitable or non-habitable, this is a non-habitable building, so it does not have the same kind of impacts as a habitable building for privacy and impact on septic. Next. Setback from the lake, of course, it's a very large setback. Size of the building, we're talking about a building that's a fairly modest sized garage, a total of 429 square feet, but it does put us over lot coverage. Next. Buffering from the lake is well buffered, not only from the natural buffer along the shoreline, which is reasonable, but also from the dwelling itself. Buffering from the neighboring properties, I think you saw the photo of the small berm that's there, and excellent buffer to the west. Next. Terrain and possible building locations. This is definitely the best location because of the terrain. It's fairly level at this site, but it does go up towards the road. And the neighboring buildings are well away from their side lot lines as well, so it'll be well set back from the neighbors. Next. Visual impact, in my opinion, from the water certainly is the most important to consider. There will be no impact, and no impact on the natural shoreline. Next. So in conclusion, I feel that this proposal does conform with the official plan policies and certainly the intent of those and lot coverage that's contemplated. And in my opinion, we have satisfied the criteria in the OP. Next. And, oh, I'm sorry, we're talking about 4 tests of minor variance. I should have mentioned that. And I believe that we're within the intent and purpose of the comprehensive zoning bylaw in terms of side yard setback from the lake, and overall lot coverage is within the parameters of the OP. Next. And desirable and appropriate for development on the land. It's will require, provide parking that's much needed, and storage inside of vehicles and or boats. And the overall scale is pretty consistent with what's in the area, and the buffer's not changing. And lastly, is the proposal minor? I know this is ultimately up to committee, but you tend to look at impacts. What is the impact? My opinion, it is insignificant from the surrounding properties. It cannot be seen from the lake. And really it takes into account the slope that's there as well. So I believe, in my opinion, the proposal is minor. I'm here to answer any questions, and thank you very much. I think you're on mute, Mr. Chair.
I believe the owners here would like to speak on this. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, are you waiting for me to speak?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Oh, okay, my screen flashed
That's
and
fine.
I didn't hear your question. I apologize. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Warren Osak. I'm the current occupant and owner of 1070 Kingset Road, Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0. Mr. Farr did an eloquent job of outlining the required variance. I'd only like to add a couple of points. The cottage itself is used all year round by myself and my family. The garage will be used to store a boat and or a snowmobile, possibly a car in place of the boat. I have spoken to my neighbors on Kingset Road, and no one has brought to my attention any issue that they have regarding the required minor variance. And I'm available this morning to answer any questions you have regarding the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I have to ask, is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support or opposition to this application? Seeing none, are there any questions from the committee? I'll read them. Moved by member Quinn, second by member Creaser. Be it resolved that application A 3420 OSAC to permit the construction of a garage, which will result in a lot coverage of 4,329 square feet or 11% of the lot area within 200 feet of the high water mark, as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision, is hereby approved. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. And reasons.
It's minor in nature. It's truly a garage for storage.
Sorry, yes, sir. Garage for storage. Yeah. 16 and a half feet wide by 26 long.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. That is carried. And our next application is A 3520 McGilvery.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-35/20 in the name of McGilvery. The property is known municipally as 2867 Muskoka Road 118 West, unit number 4. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 229 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to construct a new sleeping cabin and demolish an existing dock and construct a new dock. The minimum lot frontage requirement for a new building or structure is 100 feet. The subject property has 63 feet of lot frontage. The variance, if granted, will permit a new sleeping cabin to be constructed on an undersized lot. The minimum exterior side yard setback is 30 feet. The proposed sleeping cabin is to be constructed 25 feet from an exterior lot line abutting an unopened original road allowance. The requested relief equates to 5 feet. The minimum required setback from an unopened original road allowance is 25 feet. The proposed dock is to be 12 feet from the unopened original road allowance. The requested variance equates to 13 feet. The minimum required side yard setback from the easterly side lot line projection is 15 feet. The proposed dock is to be 0 feet from the easterly side lot line projection. The requested variance equates to 15 feet. It is noted that a portion of the proposed dock encroaches over the projection. The maximum permitted cumulative dock width is 15.5 feet. The proposed dock is to be 22 feet in width. The requested variance equates to 6.5 feet. Notice of this public hearing was circulated under the Planning Act 11 days in advance, and 2 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Neil Donald, the township's chief building official, and Mr. Donald has no Ontario Building Code objections. The second submission is by Ken Murray, who is an area landowner. Mr. Murray owns a property immediately east of the unopened original road allowance abutting the subject property, and the submission is as follows. Having now reviewed the proposed requests for variance, I wish to submit the following requests for consideration related to this file on behalf of the owners of Lot 30, being the Murrays. We received the mailing regarding this file on or about October 6, 2020, limiting the opportunity to review the file and make arrangements to access the technology to participate. I would suggest that timelines be consistent and increase from 2 or 3 business days to a minimum of 7 days. The current early make the committee more accessible to all interested parties. This email will serve as our input and appreciate it being considered in lieu of our attendance. The identified location of the quote unquote dock, and it has only been in this location since the most recent high water incident in 2019. The original location was significantly further away from the line with the road allowance toward 35R-8022. I believe that's a reference to a registered reference plan. We would request that consideration be given to moving the portion of the dock that extends from the shore further from the road allowance to permit less intrusion into the area identified as the quote unquote production of property line from the proposed 14.4 feet to a lesser intrusion. This lesser intrusion
Mr. Sharp, you're kind of breaking up
clarified,
a
is
little
this
bit there.
okay? Apologies for that. I seem to be having some issues with my internet. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Chair Edwards?
Yeah, yes, just it's sort of coming in and out.
Okay. We have no issue with the building of the proposed one-story sleeping cabin, assuming that it will be as sensitive to minimal environmental impact as possible. And again, that is by Ken Murray. Can you hear me?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Continuing on, the applicants have forwarded a submission to staff and have requested that it be read for committee, and the submission is as follows.
Now you're breaking up again. Sorry, Mr. Sharp, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now, Chair Edwards?
Yes, but nothing before that.
Okay, continue to submission. I seem to be having some problems with my internet. Committee's preference B.
No, we can't hear you.
Chair Edwards, would you like me to continue to read this?
Yeah, but like you're fading in and out. No, we can't hear you.
I could try reading it.
Okay. Mr. Sharp, I believe Mr. Pink is going to try and read that letter.
Which one are you reading?
Which one were you reading?
Can you hear me there now?
I can. What letter were you're reading?
It's by the applicants. It is saved to the collaboration folder. Mr. Pink should be able to find it. It's saved to.
You're fading out. It was the letter by the applicant, you said.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Comments received probably a couple days ago, maybe.
Found an email. I don't want to reread everything that he's.
You can't find it?
I found a lot of emails. I don't want to reread, I guess.
Yeah, sorry, my screen's frozen here and I'm cutting in and out. I have a bad connection, it's saying, so apologies.
That's okay. I can hear your voice now. Maybe with your video off, we can get the sound. Would you like to try it one more time?
Yeah, sure. I can give it another shot here. So again, this is a submission by the applicant, Jane McGilvery. Our family has held this Muskoka Lake cottage since 1956, when our grandfather next door implored my mother to buy the property. This was on his condition that his property would be gifted to her when he died. Though reluctant and despite the inaccessibility of our waterfront, my parents agreed. This necessitated that we share my grandfather's shoreline and boathouse until the mid-60s. It was only during a subsequent property survey that we discovered his boathouse impinged by 8 to 10 feet on our shoreline. My father then commissioned our own dock.
No, we lost you again.
But we were limited in size and. Okay, can you hear me now, Chair Edwards?
Yeah, I can again.
I've got it now.
Okay.
All right,
Mr. Pink
imagine
has
our
it
shock
now.
and heartbreak when in the mid-70s, my grandfather sold his property, dashing our hopes for expansion. His boathouse nonetheless remained with the new owners. Some 50 years later, our dock has been rebuilt 3 times on the same crib, given wear and tear. However, over the past decade, 2 spring floods caused it to upheave from its crib and moved it beyond our easterly.
Lost you again. Can you find that letter, Mr. Pink?
You want to mute yourself?
Yeah. And that, Mr. Pink, can you and that pick it up from where Mr. Sharp left off?
We believe that moving the dock from its current locale would serve the best interest of all parties involved and allow the family to enjoy our waterfront again. This option was only made feasible in the last 4 years when our adjoining neighbors took down the old boathouse. They rebuilt much further away from our lot line, a move that our family had been anticipating for endless summers. Thank you for your earnest considerations. Hope this sheds light on the value and significance of your decision to all of us.
Okay. Could you hear that, Mr. Sharp? Okay, he's gone. So sorry about the technical glitches here. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this? Yes.
There's the agent and owner. So
Okay, we'll put the agent on first and then the owner.
yeah, Tracy Brown.
Okay. Can we hear Tracy Brown?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, good morning. My name is Tracy Brown for Brown Steel Docks Limited in Port Carling. We're at 40 Joseph Street, Port Carling, P0B1J0. I'm just asking, the McGilverys, as it stated before previously, have been longtime cottagers. As you can see from the site plan that we had set purposes for the new dock construction, the existing dock was 31 feet in width. It has been moved over to encroach quite a bit onto the road allowance. And we were proposing to rebuild the dock for 22 feet and coming out approximately 48 feet into the lake. It is going to be further into the lake, but it's not going to be as wide at the shoreline. Visually from the lake, it's going to appear much aesthetically nicer. And I know it is encroaching on the road allowance. However, it is an unusable road allowance that it's an old unused road allowance. Basically what we're asking for is a 6.5 feet variance in the width of the dock. We're asking for 22 feet. I know I had phoned and spoke to the building department, and because it is a older dock in non-compliance, we can rebuild exactly what was there, which was 30 feet along the shoreline. We just felt that with it being the new dimensions that we were proposing was going to be a little bit better, not encroaching onto the shoreline. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. And I believe the owner is on the line as well.
Hello, this is Jane McGilvray. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello. Thank you so much for listening to our application, and thank you very much. I really don't have much to add from what Tracy has said, but I'd be certainly happy to answer any of your questions.
Okay. Can we have your name, address, and postal code, please?
Of course, yes, it's Jane McGilvray. Would you like my Toronto address or the Muskoka address?
Whatever you like it mailed to.
Okay, Jane McGilvray, 66 Hammersmith Avenue, Toronto, M4E 2W4.
Okay, thank you. And I have to ask, is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? Seeing none, are there questions from the members? No questions from the members?
Chair Edwards?
Yes. Yes.
I'm just wondering if staff could explain the significance of going into the road allowance and why that is an issue from the view of the township.
Okay, thank you. We've lost Mr. Sharp, not Mr. Pink. It's just at the water, isn't it? It's not like on land. Yes.
Yes, it is over water, which is better than encroaching on land. And unfortunately, I do not believe we received comments from the Public Works Department as of yet. However, it is municipal property. Who knows what the future holds? And I think staff was just being prudent and cautious, and an encroachment in front of municipal lands didn't seem entirely appropriate. We would prefer if it could be relocated to be directly in front of the applicant's property.
Yes, Member Green.
Yeah, I feel like we need to support the planning report here based as well on the comment of the neighbor who's adjacent to the shore road allowance. And I guess I would just be asking how this could be relocated to come into better compliant.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Quinn.
Staff have got a suggestion at a zero side yard setback, and I think that's quite a concession. And I really don't like the idea of crossing an extension of the lot line. I just don't think it's good planning.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Now, Mr. Pink, looking at the resolution, it says 0 lot line. So that's what staff are suggesting in this case.
I think what that is, it has to be 0, but it's in fact actually over. The resolution should be worded to permit what they propose. I get the sense from others that it may not pass. So I wonder if the applicant may wish to defer and advise the proposal. I get the sense.
This is to the applicant, and that I think it should be actually revisited. It may not pass at this time. We can adjourn this and you can come back. But what the staff are telling me is they don't want it to go over the lot line. So if that can be reworked, if you're in agreement with it, we will actually defer this application at this time.
Could I speak for a moment?
Yes.
It's Tracy Brown speaking again. We actually had John Hiley from Coot Hiley Jemmett in, And we did, I spoke at great lengths with Bryce regarding this project, as well as we tried to change the projected lot lines where we could move it over or we could not move it. In Bryce's report, he also did say that, if we could maybe make the dock a little bit not as wide at the end, and we can do that. It's 22 feet. We could bring it in a little bit more. It's still going to be over the projected lot line. Right now, the existing dock is 30 feet wide and it is encroaching quite a bit onto the at shoreline. So that was our only concern. It doesn't seem to be, it encroaches over the projected lot line right now, but I mean, we could resituate it, but then we're going to be too close on the other side.
Well,
any suggestions?
Maybe Mr. Sharp can have some suggestions on this. What we're talking about is we don't want the dock going over the projected lot line, Mr. Sharp.
Okay, so what's the specific question?
What the committee is concerned about is they don't want the dock going over the projected lot line. And that
He's offered to reduce the width somewhat, but it may still project over the lot line. Not sure if she wants to repeat the specific question.
Are you unmuted, Chair Edwards?
Sure, I can mute myself.
Hi, it's Bryce again here. I just wanted to try to add some context to the situation. I understand the applicant's agent has put forward a proposal to slightly reduce the width, but to keep the dock extending over the side lot line projection. I think our preference in this case, as per our recommendation, would be to reduce both the width and the extent that the dock extends over the side lot line projection, such that you would maintain a 0-foot setback. So that's our recommendation. It's up to committee to deliberate further on what they would like to see in this circumstance.
Okay, yes, first, and that member Green first.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the planner here, our planner, that it should be 0 at the end of the dock, based particularly on what the neighbor said, which is that at some point the dock got a lot wider and encroached quite a bit. And I'm not sure that we have to start with that. I agree that it should just comply it when it actually doesn't even comply, but it should be 0.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Sharp.
So just again to explain where we're coming from, there is one particular official plan policy that is relevant in this case, and it's a specific policy that says that views shall not be impacted as defined by the projections over water. So in this case, it would be a dock that would be projecting over the side lot line. Now, the property in question is a public original road allowance, but it still does have, a public interest component that is important to maintain over time. So again, based on the official plan policies in place, I think we'd be looking as a compromise at a 0-foot setback.
Through the chair.
Okay, and yes, Mr. Bosenmuth.
I'm just wondering if the applicant is more concerned about length or width. If you shrunk the length of the dock so that the outer corner came back to the lock line, you'd have a lot shorter dock, but you might still have 22 feet wide. So if we're going to send them back, I think it would be as best to send them back with some guidance about what we thought was acceptable. Before we give that guidance, I'd like to know whether they're more interested in length or width.
Can the
Hello.
applicant answer that?
Yes, of course. Thank you. This is Jane McGilvery again. We would be certainly open to having less of a length. The width is important too, but we have to be able to moor our boat. That is our biggest consideration, which is why we had asked for the current dimensions of the dock. So ideally, that would be our first choice.
Yes, Mr. Quinn.
Through the chair, is there is there a navigation or a rock or shallow water? Is there a reason why it can't go parallel at zero along the lot line for an extension out into as far as you want to go?
Someone like to answer that?
I could maybe answer that, actually. I think what Joe, you're saying is if we could turn the dock to be perpendicular to the projected property line, is that what you're saying?
If we went out parallel, like the planner suggests, at a 0-foot setback, is there a reason why you're wanting to go on the angle or over the line? Is there is there shallow water? Is there a rock? Is there a good reason why you're trying to go over the projected lot line?
Well, I think you can see from the existing where there was pictures submitted, where you come down the stairs to the existing dock area. It's quite a steep shoreline. It's all the rock coming down there. I mean, I don't think that we're opposed to that. I know they wanted to have a little bit more depth so we could go out further for the boats, but I'm just looking at the survey right now, and we may be able just to tweak it and move the dock at what you're saying. So it's to the 0 property line. I mean, that would be something that I could speak with the owners with regards, or maybe Jane, you could chime in on that, what your feelings are.
Hello?
Hello, did you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was the reasoning why we wanted to have a different configuration altogether from the current dock that we have. It just has not been working for us for many years because of the constraints I outlined in my letter.
Well, I guess what we're asking is we want 0 lot line. Do you want this deferred so you can rework it and change it? And the reason for that is if it was turned down today, you'd have to reapply. If it's deferred, you can work it out with the planning staff, come up with a better in that configuration and maybe get it passed.
Well, yes, I would definitely want to take that opportunity then to have it deferred.
Okay, that's fine then. Yes, Member Quinn.
I'm still asking if there's a natural deterrent, like a rock in the water, shallow water. Is there a reason why it can't be within an extension of the lot line?
I think can you hear me again? Sorry. Yes, there is a lot of rock along that shore, definitely right behind, that makes it a shallow area right where you're suggesting with rock outcroppings, which is why we had the boat in our previous iteration out at the top of it. We couldn't moor it on either side.
But at 50 feet, an extension of that lot line where the dock is going now, or if it was turned 14 feet in, is there rocks there at 50 feet?
No, no.
Thank you.
Then I think in this case, we'll actually defer it, see if you can rework it, and then come back to us. You can come back even the next meeting if you get everything resolved.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Could I ask one more question?
Yes.
So if we rework this, is council or the committee approving that we can go at the 0 projected lot line? We can go a 0 setback then?
I think they consider it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
I would
that's great.
support it.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, thank you. So we'll adjourn this and it'll be coming back later.
Thank you.
Okay, and let's see now. And the next application is A3620.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is my final report and application on today's agenda. I'd like to thank you in advance for the opportunity. This is item AI on your agenda. It's file number A3620 with respect to 1167 Acton Island Road under the name Ashton. The application that's before you today is for relief from sections 4136 and 4137 of bylaw 2014-14 being the 10% maximum lot coverage within 200 feet of the shoreline. The applicants constructed a lean-to to an existing garage, and the total coverage for all buildings is 7,674 square feet, or a coverage of 10.2%. Therefore, a variance has been applied for 0.2%, or 157.6 square feet. Please refer to the site plan in your agenda, for which there is a link provided. Notice of this application was provided on October 2nd, and the 10-day notice requirement of the Planning Act has been satisfied. And we have received 2 comments with respect to the circulation of this application. We have an email dated October 9th from Susan O'Connor at 1177 Acton Island Road, indicating they have no objections from either her or her husband, who are neighbors to the property. We also have an email dated September 25th from the building department, again reporting that they have no objections to the subject application. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, you have the detailed staff report that's been submitted. You'll note that there are a number of pictures within the application, within the report, highlighting the proposed or the as constructed lean-to on the side of the garage. Based on our review of the site, the plans and policies, we believe that the application meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and therefore have no objections to the approval of the application if the committee sees fit. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm certainly willing to answer any questions if the committee has it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crown, and thank you for your help today. We really appreciate it. Excellent reports. Thank you. And we have the applicant and the applicant's agent here, so we'll have the agent first.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can.
So I'm Eric Muntz. I am the agent acting on behalf of Mr. Ashton of 3 Lee Valley Drive, Unit 3 in Port Carling. That's P0B1J0. I think the explanation here is pretty straightforward, and then it's definitely minor in nature. Just the lean-to shed was added on with the owner not knowing that we were already at the max lot coverage with the recently approved garage. So he went ahead and constructed the lean-to not knowing, and we're just looking to remedy that small structure on the side of the garage now.
Right. Thank you very much. And would the owner like to come? No, so no one else. I will have to ask, though, I don't think is anyone here wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? Seeing none, are there questions from the members? Seeing none, I'll read the resolution. Excuse me. Moved by member Quinn, second by member Bosworth. Be it resolved that application A 3620 Ashton to permit the existing lean-to that is attached to the existing garage storage building that results in a lot coverage of 7,674 square feet or 10.2% of the lot area within 200 feet from the high water mark, as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision, is hereby approved. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And the cause and effect.
Minor.
Neighbor support.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Okay. I believe that's all the applications. And we have some information items.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. We just have a information item on an LPAT matter to inform committee of. So thank you, Chair Edwards. Committee may recall minor variance application A-90/19 in the name of Rothney. This was the second of 2 minor variance applications submitted by the applicant. The first minor variance application, being application A-78/18, was granted by committee in February 2019 for relief from lot coverage and front yard requirements in order to recognize an as-built sauna on the property. The property is known municipally as 1204 Hamels Point Road and fronts onto Roberts Bay of Lake Joseph. The requested variances in application A-90/19 included relief from lot coverage, dock width, dock length, and first-story boathouse length requirements. Committee denied the application in February of this year. The applicant appealed committee's decision to the local planning appeal tribunal. The applicant and the township reached a settlement, and the tribunal authorized the variances subject to conditions. The applicant has entered into a development agreement with the township, agreeing to use all of the buildings and structures on the property in compliance with the township's comprehensive zoning bylaw. The applicant has also entered into a site plan agreement with the township, requiring 20 new tree plantings and 16 new shrub plantings in proximity to the as-built gazebo structure. So the township is currently holding about $14,000 in securities for this work. I'd be happy to answer any questions that committee may have. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Yes, member Green.
All right, how does it work that you're at LPAT and then you just, you negotiate and they agree to, what is the process?
So there is a process under the LPAT in order to allow the township council and an appellant to reach a settlement. And that was the case in this instance. So there was a settlement reached between the township and the applicant. That settlement identified a number of matters that would be addressed by the appellant. In this specific case, it was the development agreement regarding the use of the buildings and the site plan agreement regarding the plantings around the as-built sauna. And perhaps Mr. Pink would like to elaborate further.
Further to that, thank you, Chair Edwards. Just please note with respect to the process, which I think was the question, the discussions would happen in camera at a council level, and that they gave instructions to legal counsel and staff what terms they would be willing to settle on with the applicant, and then that would be presented to the tribunal, and the tribunal did agree. There was no dissenting opinions. There was a participant, but no other parties to the hearing. So hopefully that just expands a little bit on the actual process.
Does that answer your question, Member Green? Okay, and I have in that Member Wallensworth.
So do I understand then that the applicant, the LPAT allowed the applicant to build a 69-foot dock when 66 was required, 52-foot boathouse length when 50 is required, and a 237-foot gazebo when 100 feet is required? Did the LPAT allow all of that, and then the negotiation was to have tree plantings instead of that? Is that the way I read this?
Who would like to answer that?
Through you, Chair Edwards, I'd just like to clarify, all of the buildings in question were already built. So the variances that were before committee were all to recognize existing buildings and structures. So the committee, or sorry, the LPAT, the tribunal approved the variances subject to the noted conditions which implemented the agreement that was reached between the township and the appellant. So as I had indicated, part of that was to require plantings around the sauna to help buffer it from the lakeside.
Just further Member Bosworth, I'm not quite sure why the tribunal included some of the variances. I think as Bryce introduced the application, provided some background. The Committee of Adjustment did actually approve of the sauna size previously, and that decision was not appealed. I'm not quite sure, other than perhaps there was an error in their understanding in including that variance again. It was not necessary. What was needed as a condition of the first approval was some survey work to be completed. And it was through that work, it was discovered that an older boathouse and dock did exceed the width and length requirements, and also a slight increase in lot coverage. So that is what the current decision did permit.
So to be clear, then this was to rectify a situation that had been in place for quite a long time, not a current applicant who had just built too big. When the survey was done, we ultimately found out that things were non-compliant. Is that clear?
Yes, I believe that's right. Yes.
Thank you. That helps a lot.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, I believe that concludes all of our business. So I'll read the final resolution. Moved by Member Baumsworth, second by Member Green. Be it resolved that the meeting adjourned at 12:06 p.m. All those in favor? Thank you very much, and hopefully we don't have all the glitches next time.
And Wes, thanks for your help today.
And we'll see you next month.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye.